Every World Cup, it happens. A player spends 4 years proving he's one of the best footballers on the planet. Week after week, he dominates the game around him, scoring goals, creating chances, winning trophies, and building a reputation that makes defenders nervous before the match has even started. Then the World Cup arrives, the biggest stage in football, the tournament every child dreams about lifting one day. And suddenly, something changes. The touches become heavier, the passes become safer, and the confidence that once made him special begins to disappear. The player who looked unstoppable just a few months ago suddenly looks ordinary. Fans start asking questions. Has he declined? Has he lost his talent? Has he become overrated? But those questions miss the real answer. Because talent doesn't disappear overnight. Technique doesn't disappear overnight. Football intelligence doesn't disappear overnight. So what does? The answer is pressure. And understanding pressure might be the key to understanding football itself. Because the World Cup isn't simply a football tournament. It's the largest psychological test in sport. A stage where the weight of expectations can either create legends or break them. Every 4 years, the entire world watches to see who rises above the pressure and who gets consumed by it. Sports psychologists have studied this phenomenon for years. They often describe it as overthinking under pressure. When athletes become too conscious of actions they normally perform automatically, the result is slower reactions, poorer decisions, and reduced confidence. Think about walking down a staircase. You do it naturally without thinking about every movement. But if someone suddenly forced you to consciously analyze every step, your movements would become awkward and uncomfortable. Football works in a similar way. The best players rely on thousands of hours of training that allow actions to happen instinctively, but pressure interrupts the process. Instead of trusting years of preparation, players start questioning themselves. Should I shoot? Should I pass? Should I dribble? What if I lose the ball? What if I miss? What if I let everyone down? Those thoughts may last only a fraction of a second, but in elite football, fractions of a second can determine everything. The greatest World Cup performers are often not the most talented players. They are the players who remain mentally free despite the pressure surrounding them. History is filled with examples of players who experienced both sides of that reality. Think about Lionel Messi. For years, every international tournament seemed to add another layer of pressure. Every defeat raised more questions. Every missed opportunity created more criticism. It reached a point where people were no longer discussing what he had achieved but what he had failed to achieve. Yet when Argentina finally lifted the World Cup, it wasn't because Messi suddenly became more talented. He had always been talented. What changed was his relationship with pressure. He stopped carrying the weight of proving himself and started playing with freedom again. The media only increases that pressure because modern footballers are no longer judged only by what happens on the pitch. Every performance is analyzed by television experts, social media users, former players, journalists, and millions of fans around the world. Before the final whistle has even blown, opinions are already spreading across the internet, and every missed chance becomes a viral clip viewed by millions. Imagine missing a simple opportunity in front of goal on a Sunday afternoon league match. People will discuss it for a few days and then move on. Now imagine missing that same chance during a World Cup quarter-final where billions of people are watching. The difference is enormous. This is why many players begin playing not to succeed but to avoid failure, and that single mental shift changes everything. Football is at its best when players are brave, when they attempt the difficult pass, when they attack defenders 1 versus 1, and when they trust their instincts without hesitation. Fear does the opposite. Fear encourages caution. Fear encourages hesitation. Fear encourages safety. And while safety might prevent mistakes, it rarely creates greatness. You can often see it happening in real time. A player receives the ball and instead of turning forward, he passes backward. A winger known for dribbling suddenly chooses the simple option. A creative midfielder stops taking risks and starts playing predictable football. The audience may not immediately notice what has changed, but they can sense that something is missing. What is missing is freedom. Freedom is one of the most important ingredients in elite football, and pressure is freedom's greatest enemy because the more a player thinks about consequences, the less naturally he performs. For some countries, football is more than a sport. It becomes part of national identity. Victories create collective joy. Defeats create collective heartbreak. Imagine knowing that millions of people have built their dreams around your success. Imagine knowing that children are wearing your name on their backs, parents are discussing your performances at dinner tables, and entire cities are preparing celebrations before the tournament has even begun. That level level of expectation would affect anyone. And yet the remarkable part is that some players somehow thrive within it. Because pressure itself is not always negative. Sometimes pressure becomes energy. The difference lies in interpretation. One player sees pressure as a threat. Another sees it as an opportunity. One player focuses on what he might lose. Another focuses on what he might achieve. The situation is identical, but the mindset is completely different. This is why football history remembers certain World Cups as moments of transformation, tournaments where players evolved from stars into legends, not because they avoided pressure, but because they embraced it. They understood that greatness is not measured by performances when everything feels comfortable. Greatness is measured by performances when everything feels difficult. Anyone can play freely when expectations are low, but only a select few can maintain that freedom when an entire planet is watching. And perhaps that is the true reason why great players sometimes disappear at the World Cup. It is not because they suddenly become worse footballers. It is not because they forget how to pass, shoot, or control a ball. It is because the World Cup exposes something deeper than technical ability. It exposes how the human mind responds when dreams and fears collide on the biggest stage imaginable. For 90 minutes, the match may look like a football game, but beneath the surface, another battle is taking place. A battle between confidence and doubt, freedom and fear, instinct and hesitation. And every 4 years, that invisible battle decides who becomes immortal and who becomes another mystery football fans spend decades trying to understand. Because when we watch the World Cup, we think we are watching football, but in reality, we are watching human beings deal with pressure. We are watching confidence battle doubt. We are watching courage battle fear. And every 4 years, that invisible battle decides who becomes a champion and who becomes a lesson. Because on football's biggest stage, the hardest opponent is rarely standing across from you. It is standing inside your own head.